Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 11, text 33. Tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva jitva shatrun bhungshva rajyam samruddham mayaivaite nihatah purvameva nimittamatram bhava savyasachin. Krishna tells Arjuna, O Arjuna, Tvam Uttishta, Tasmat Tvam Uttishta. In the previous verse, Krishna mentioned the reason why he appeared. When Arjuna got bewildered by looking at this wondrous universal form, he asked Krishna, My dear Lord, what is your purpose? I'm afraid in all directions. And then Krishna disclosed that he is Kalaha, Kalosmi, and I have come here for Lokakshayakrit, for destroying the worlds. And he showed all these opponents, all the great warriors, including the soldiers from Arjuna's side, except the Pandavas. They are all getting annihilated. So whether he likes it or not, it is going to happen. It is the will of the Lord. Therefore, Tasmat, Tvam Uttishtha, get up, O Arjuna, Yashola Bhasva, win the glory, become famous by Jitva Shatrun, by conquering the enemies, Jitva Shatrun, and thereby Bhunkshva Rajyam Samruddham. You attain this kingdom, Rajyam Samruddham, and Bhunkshva, enjoy it. You don't have to worry about fighting with your own abilities and thinking how to kill these people. Mayaivaite nihataha purvameva. Previously only, already by now, I've decided that nihataha, they'll be annihilated. All you have to do is nimitta matram bhava savyasachin. O Arjuna, Savyasachi means who is a very expert shooter of arrows. And he tells Arjuna, nimitta matram bhava. You just become an instrument. So Arjuna is capable of shooting his arrows. And all you have to do is just do that. That is your role as an instrument. So each of us have some kind of ability. It doesn't matter what it is. Even if you think you don't have, Krishna knows what you have. At least everybody can nicely chant, nicely hear. That is also a great ability. People struggle to chant and hear. Or many other activities, you may be proficient in something. So that is called shooting arrows. And if we do that nicely, we can become instrument. The Lord can use us in executing his mission, his plan. So here Prabhupada writes, the whole world is moving according to the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Foolish persons who do not have sufficient knowledge think that nature is moving without a plan, and all manifestations are but accidental formations. There are many scientists, so-called scientists, who suggest that perhaps it was like this or maybe like that. But there is no question of perhaps and maybe. There is a specific plan being carried out in this material world. So there is a plan of the Lord. And what is that plan? This cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead, back to home. This is the plan. This is the Lord's plan. that we have come to this world from our original home, Krishna's abode, but we are suffering with Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease, not just in this lifetime, but innumerable lifetimes. Why? Because we have this dominating mentality. We try to dominate the nature and try to lord over material nature, but we become conditioned. Like, for example, we wanted to enjoy, we created this mobile phone. So now we are conditioned by it. We cannot survive without it, isn't it? You get used to things, you cannot survive without it. So the more we try to lord over material nature, the more we are getting conditioned by it. So this is our disease. This is the reason why Prakriti sthani karshati. Krishna says, originally we are parts and parcels of, even now we are parts and parcels of Krishna, but we belong to the spiritual world. But now, with a desire to lord over this matter, we come here. Mamaivamsho jivaloke jiva bhutah sanatanah manah shasthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So, with that desire, we come and we become conditioned. Just like you try to take away resources from the government without paying tax, what will happen? You'll be jailed and you'll be made to work hard. Karshati means krishi. Krishi means working hard. Why? Because we wanted to exploit without properly, without proper authority. If you try to steal somebody's property, what will happen? You will become implicated. That is why we are struggling in this world. Karshati. That is why the Lord, He sees this conditioned living entity's situation and He wants to deliver them. So this world is a place of reformation. He provides an opportunity for those who want to cultivate the going back to Godhead. So Prabhupada writes, anyone who can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness is most intelligent. So who is most intelligent? One who understands this plan of the Lord. And what is the plan? This cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back home, back to Godhead. So as long as we are playing our part in the plan of the Lord, then we are successful. Then we are considered the most intelligent. So even the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of the Lord. If Krishna wants violence, if Krishna wants war, who are we to prevent it? If Krishna is asking Arjuna to fight, refusing to fight was his disease. But willing to fight should be the most intelligent option. Because we cannot avoid distress. Today, even if we want to avoid war, can we say people are all happy? Without war, there is adhyatmik, adhibhautik, adhidaivik kleshas, miseries caused by one's own mind and body, miseries caused by other living entities, and miseries caused by natural disasters. Can we avoid them? No. According to our karma, all of them will come. So if we foolishly think, oh, I'm going to decide, I'm going to obstruct nature's plan, then we are being foolish. We are not being intelligent. Nature's plan is the Lord's plan. So we have to align ourselves. Then how do we know it? The spiritual master's mission is Krishna's mission. As long as we are serving the spiritual master, then we are going along with the plan of the Lord. So Prabhupada says in one of his lectures, so Krishna does everything for the devotee, but it does not mean that the devotee should sit down and do nothing. So our Krishna consciousness movement, it's not that we are creating some idle thing. You must work for Krishna's sake with the best of your abilities. And the success, the credit of the success, it does not go to the actual doer, but to the Lord. Of course, if we have poor fund of knowledge, we can take our credit and don't give credit to the Lord. I have done this, I have achieved this. It's because of me, things are running. But the real intelligent person knows that I am nothing. The Lord, out of His kindness, has used me and is giving me some credit. The Lord wants to glorify His devotees. Just like the devotees want to glorify the Lord wants to glorify devotees. He gives always opportunity for the devotee. You come in the front, you be in the front, you do this. And the most intelligent devotees, they understand this. And they don't become proud. Like Brahma himself, he is the secondary creator of this universe. He is the first born living entity. He's in charge of this universe. He controls this universe. But see how he prays in Srimad Bhagavatam. Esha prapanna varado ramayatma shaktya yad yad karishyati grihita gunavataraha tasmin swavikramamidam srujatopi cheto yunjita karma shamalam chayadha vijahyam. So he says, the Lord is the benefactor, always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potency, the goddess of fortune, Rama. And I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of this material world. And I pray that I may not be materially affected by my works. I should not be affected by my works, and I'll be able to give up the false prestige of being the creator. And this is what exactly Arjuna's case it is having. Krishna is saying, I'm giving you the yashaha, means the fame. Tasmat tvam uttishta yasho labhasva. You get the credit. Win over your enemies. Bhungshva rajyam. Enjoy this kingdom. So many amenities Krishna gives for a willing devotee. Of course, it's not for that, oh, I should become famous. I should enjoy this. It's not with that intent the devotee executes the plan of the Lord. It is our natural position. We become happy, we become satisfied for being in the executing the plan of the Lord. That's our happiness. And whatever comes is a byproduct. The Lord bestows us material wealth, material happiness, the kingdom, the fame. It's a byproduct of our engaging in the plan of the Lord. And sometimes the Lord may not give those, may put us in distressful condition even after we engage in the plan of the Lord for a higher purpose, for reforming us, for purifying us. So the byproduct could be fame or infamy, happiness or distress, richness or poor poverty. That is a byproduct. But the actual thing we should concern is whether we are executing the plan of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada was a classic example of this. In Imagine in the 1970s how even now to maintain one temple, to start a new temple, even to go around the world, it is, even though the technology has advanced, there are so many obstacles. Just imagine in 70s how much it must have been. But Prabhupada established a worldwide institution, and it was a phenomenal success. There was many things that happened which were very unusual. There is one interesting story. The very early days of our movement, not many books were available. Not so much money was there. At that time, Srila Prabhupada had translated the Bhagavad Gita. And they had gone to different small publishers trying to get that book published. And all of them had rejected. And so there was no money to print the Bhagavad Gita. At that time, Prabhupada had made a recording of the Hare Krishna mantra with Prabhupada himself singing. And the devotees would sell that record, and then they would advertise that in different places. They would play that record, they would perform. And one day, a devotee, he was looking at all the letters that come in the mailbox in that first temple in New York, 26 Second Avenue. There was one letter written by somebody from Macmillan Company. So Macmillan Company is the publisher. And he didn't say that he will publish the book, but he wrote a letter, or the letter came from Macmillan Company, saying that you send me the record. Because it was becoming famous, the Hare Krishna mantra record, and devotees were publicizing it everywhere. So the letter said, please send me the record, and they have enclosed a check also for the cost of that record. So the devotee, they read that letter and they ran up to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada looked at that and said, you should not send that by mail, but you should go tomorrow to this person and hand deliver that record. And also tell that we have the manuscript of Bhagavad Gita and we want to publish it. And so the devotee went to that Macmillan Company next day and found that the person who had written the letter, he happened to be a small accountant. So the devotee was a little disappointed. So he gave the record and he was telling him about the mantra and all that. He was a small accountant, you know, nothing to do with publishing a book and all that. And then they were talking, and suddenly the door opened, and another gentleman walked in, and he was like a big man in the company. And this clerk immediately introduced the devotee to that. He happened to be the senior editor of the Macmillan Company. And they shook hands, and the devotee took that chance, immediately told him, we have this Swamiji who is in New York. He has written the commentary on Bhagavad Gita, ready to be published. Would you be interested? And then that man, suddenly his eyes brightened and said, oh, Bhagavad Gita, the manuscript is ready. Actually, in our religious section, we were looking for Bhagavad Gita. We had published a book on Buddhism, and we were looking to add Bhagavad Gita to our collection. So definitely, I would like to meet him. And please bring over the manuscript. And the devotee ran back and told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was happy, and then the meeting was fixed. And then the first Bhagavad Gita was published eventually by that Macmillan Company. So you see how the devotees were trying. It's not that suddenly it came on their head. But one day, Krishna released that. Without Krishna's intervention, it wouldn't have been possible. So it's not that the devotee sits and does nothing, as Prabhupada is saying. Devotee tries his best to serve the plan of the Lord, and then the Lord reciprocates. And whether he reciprocates or not, we continue to be enthusiastic because it is bound to happen. The result is bound to happen. If not today, tomorrow, or sometime. Prabhupada gives the example of the wife who is newly married, and her duty is to cultivate a good relation with the husband, cultivate a good family. Eventually, the child will happen. But if she becomes restless, no, the child should come the next day. I should get a child. I should get a child. Becomes desperate and focused on only that. Then she will not be able to do the other things nicely. And child will happen as a consequence of being enthusiastic in that relation. So Rupa Goswami's principle is Utsahan nischayat dhairyat tat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat sato vritte shadbhir bhakti prasidhyati. There are six things which enhance our bhakti. The first thing is utsaha. Utsaha means enthusiasm. We must be enthusiastic in executing our sadhana, executing our services, not so much focused on the material result. Material result will come eventually. And that is meant for the Lord's pleasure, not my pleasure. My pleasure is in giving service to the Lord. So, like this, during Prabhupada's time, very miraculous things happen. Even now, when you serve Prabhupada, because it is the Lord's mission, the Lord produces miraculous things. When Prabhupada sent his disciples to London in late 60s, they didn't have money. And they were all newlywed couples, Westerners, had no idea of Vedic culture, but they were all initiated, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra sincerely. And so Prabhupada sent them, empowered them to go to London and preach. And one of the instructions he gave them was to make a splash, meaning make it big. Whatever you do, try to make it big. And the devotees didn't know how to make it big. But then they heard about the Beatles. They heard about George Harrison, who was a very famous musician at the time, and the whole world, the Western world, was following him. So the devotees were thinking how to reach to him. And obviously, celebrities, many guards and all, you cannot get closer to them. So they had, but these Beatles, they had a recording studio in London called Apple Records. So what the devotees did, they made varieties of apple prasadam. It's called Apple Records. So they made apple prasadam, made different kinds of prasadam made of apple, and they would send that to the studio building. And initially, the security guards were eating that, and then it gradually went to the receptionist, and then the prasadam went floor to floor, and everybody was talking, asking, "Who is that?" Oh, some Hare Krishnas are coming and delivering apple prasadam. And finally, it went to George Harrison. He also ate that. And then what happened? They stopped sending prasadam. And the word started coming down from the higher floors. Hey, wow, why is it not coming anymore? Where are these people? Who are these people? And George himself sent that word. I want to meet those people. who are sending nice apple prasadam. And then somehow they found the devotees, and then a meeting was arranged. And the very first meeting, George heard about all these things and about the Hare Krishna album, and he invited the devotees to come over to his house, and they had a very long kirtan, exactly as Prabhupada had taught them, and he liked it so much. And then he made an album that became the number one hit for several weeks in Western countries. And Prabhupada became very pleased. And you know how what all happened after that. George Harrison became involved. They produced more records, and he became a devotee. He eventually gave that manor, that Bhaktivedanta manor, which is now the famous temple in London that we have. So you see how the willingness to serve the Lord's mission, how disproportionately the result the Lord has given. But we should always remain humble. Like we should, like an instrument. The instrument by itself, it cannot accomplish anything unless it is in the hands of the doer. So this is called humility. So Arjuna should not think, Arjuna never thought like that, of course, he is a pure devotee, but we should not think, oh, I'm doing myself. This is Lord's kindness that He is letting things happen through me. That is called real humility. And you see how Krishna is whipping up Arjuna. Get up, stop this nonsense. Get up and fight. So this is a dose of enthusiasm that we want. Because we all give various reasons to avoid work, to avoid waking up early, to avoid chanting, to avoid doing service. Because Maya has conditioned us to take happiness in sense gratification and not in service and sadhana. So just like Krishna is, you know, urging Arjuna, stop this and get up and fight. So we should constantly hear from Krishna, put aside our lethargy, and pick up our beads and start chanting or start doing some service. So Krishna is acting like an inspirational mental conditioning coach to Arjuna in one sense. So, like that, when we constantly hear from the devotees, from the spiritual master, from Krishna, read from Krishna's instructions, then it constantly excites us. It constantly gives that dose of enthusiasm, removes that lethargy. I'll stop here. Anyone has any questions or comments? Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanand.